Welcome everyone to a brand new tutorial I'm going to be making here, revisiting my tower defense that was my actual original tutorial on my channel, and I remade once, but since the beta, that was almost a year ago, a lot has changed, and so this is going to be a fresh tower defense with some new things. I'm going to be doing anti-blocking, selling, versus kind of 4 players. I'm going to be, like, as you can see on the leaderboard here, it's going to be a little bit more interesting and more full. And as you can see at the start, you get a little choose race dialog, and I'm going to choose the shadow team, and player 1 and 2 play on the left, player 3 and 4 would play on the right if they were here. We can see the wave is going to begin soon, so I better start building. And you can see as I build, if I'm about to block here, it'll actually stop me and say tower removed, you blocked. And the mobs have spawned and they're heading down. And then I'll lose lives, and the game will be over when one side loses their lives. And there's a cell, and I mean, I'm blasting through all the features right now, but we want to get to the tutorial, so this is just a quick run through. And there will be a text version of the tutorial on SC2 Mapster. I put a link in the description where you can do this entire tutorial through text, because me personally, I prefer text, but I prefer to make videos. So for people that don't want to sit through and listen to me, they can actually go through and follow the text tutorial. So why don't we begin? So the basic structure of this tutorial will be, we're going to start out with the terrain, and then we're going to move into the data editor and get up all the towers and units ready, and abilities like selling. And then we're going to finally finish in the trigger editor, which will put all the logic together, like the waves and the spawning and the end game stuff. So I have the Starcraft 2 editor open here, and to begin, I'm going to go File, New. And this is going to be a relatively more of a beginner tutorial, so if you're more advanced, you can read through the text version and kind of ignore this tutorial, I guess. But I did need to remake my tower defense tutorial as it was severely out of date. So I'm going to make a map that's going to be 88 by 88, good enough to fit 4 players. I'm going to use terrain, and I'm going to use core hall, and initially grass. That's a nice thing to build on. And dependencies, we want to go custom here, and then we want to, when this window pops up, hit add standard. And we want to check off the 2 that we don't have, because these 2 are important to get all the campaign models and stuff. Otherwise you're missing out. And I guess they do include all of the ones in here as well, but I generally think it's good to have all 4 just in case. And then we hit OK. And once we're in here, we're basically just going to be presented with the terrain editor, and we'll just hammer out this part relatively quick. It's probably the simplest conceptually too, but it does take some time to actually load all the campaign models into this terrain editor. Okay, so to start here, I'm going to zoom out with the wheel a bit, and then I'm going to hit T to go to the terrain layer. You can also go up here to layer and switch between them all. And I'm already on the cliff tool, and then I'm going to go to lower cliff, and I'll make sure I'm on core hall skyscraper. I'm going to increase it to maybe 4 and switch it to square shape, and zoom out a bit more here. You can hit G to turn on the grid, and O turns on the camera bounds and map bounds. And I'm going to kind of draw a line down the middle. I'm not going to be perfect here, but I just want to kind of put a boundary. Oh, that's pretty far off actually, but whatever. This is just for the video version. There will be a download link for the actual map, which is the proper version I made before this. So there's the kind of center, and then we're going to put some sort of higher cliffs around the actual where the players are, so that they can't really run away. Although we will put some pathing blockers anyway, so they can't run off the bounds. And you got to leave a little space for the mobs to come through on both sides. So they're going to spawn up here, and then they're going to head down here. And I'm doing this pretty sloppily. Please excuse that, but I don't really want to waste too much time on this, because at this point there's a lot of people who know how to do this already. So just some standard setup procedure of any tower defense. And then I'm going to switch to the textures layer here, textures tab button thing, and hit the fill tool, and then choose core hall small tiles. And then I'm just going to tap on the cliff so that so they get a little different texture. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to the regular paint called Add Texture, and then I'm going to switch to Concrete, and switch to the hard fall off style, and make sure you're on the square brush, and then I'm going to paint some concrete down here at the bottom where you sort of where the mobs sort of reach the end point. Let's place those in there, and then let's paint some concrete up top where they sort of spawn. So it's kind of an indicator of, and you could do this much nicer. I'm doing this very poorly, as you can see, and this would not be acceptable on Battle.net, but it gets the concepts through here, and you can adjust your terrain by your own self. So we got the concrete here to kind of be a visual indicator for the player, and then we're going to hit D to switch to doodads. And doodads are like little objects that you can place on the terrain, like trees, pipes, houses, whatever, that can't interact or move, but are just visual flattery, I guess, like this little volcano. Hit escape to get out of the select tool, and then go over here and search for decal. And you can go through and look at all the other ones, but I'm using the decal. And then you can zoom in with the wheel and go to the bottom of each side here, and we're going to use comma or period to switch through the decals till we find the dashed line. There it is. I'm going to drop one and double click it and change its rotation to 0. And then I'm going to move it over to where the boundary edge is here of the concrete. And then I'm going to copy paste and drop another one right beside it, and copy paste and drop that beside it. And then I'm going to drag and copy all three and paste them on the other end point. And as you can see, my horrible design, I made one bigger than the other, so I'm going to have to line these up and copy paste another one. Oh well, that's okay. Okay, so we have a little bit of visual indicator now, and now we're going to add the actual points for where the players spawn and where the mobs spawn. So hit P to go to points layer. Again, you can find that up here, and click on the add point normal button, and we're going to add point 1 for player 1 to be there. Point 2 is going to be player 2's spawn, which is going to be on the left side down here. Player 3's spawn is going to be over here, and player 4's spawn is going to be over here on the right. And then point 5 is going to be up here where the left side mobs spawn, and point 6 is going to be over here where the right side mobs spawn. And my terrain was a bit off, so I'm just going to go back to the terrain layer and paint some concrete a little bit lower here to kind of be a better indicator. Not the best terrain job, but not the point of this tutorial. So don't crucify me about that one, although it is pretty bad, I'll admit that. And then now we've got the starting points here. Now we need to put a region at the bottom. So hit R to go to the region layer and choose the rectangle region and drag around that bottom concrete. About that is good. And if you hit escape and then drag down on it, you can move it up a bit and copy and then paste it over here. And we'll have to resize it a bit because my right side was improperly made. So I'm going to double click it and make the size a bit bigger. That's a bit better. So the basic understanding is that we use the points to spawn things and for making the starting units, but the regions where we're going to track in our triggers where the logic of the unit coming through at the end is going to be. I hope that makes sense. It's not too terribly complicated at this point. The data editor is going to be the complicated part. So the basic map is set up, but we've got to realize that our builder is going to be able to run around and run over the middle and stuff. So if you hit H to go to the pathing layer, we're going to paint pathing, we're going to add pathing, and we're going to first paint no building and switch to square. And we're going to paint no building over this concrete at the start and ends of each spawn, I guess, of each mob spawn, so that the player can't build on where they're supposed to reach. And then we're going to switch to no pathing, which will be red when we paint it. And you're going to want to paint this red sort of around everywhere you don't want the player to go, and even over this crack here into this gully valley thing. And then yeah, just paint around these cliffs, because the builder's going to be a flying unit, so if you don't want the player to go off into places, then you should definitely do this kind of precautionary step around the no build zone. And you can see I missed a spot in there. Okay, and paint this no pathing all the way around just to be safe. And there we go. Okay, and now that's the basic terrain is done, and we're going to just set up some map properties, and then we'll be on to the data editor. So if you hit the map button at the top here and go to map info, the name here is a random name, and you need to actually change this to be what your map name will be on BattleNet, because this will appear on the actual BattleNet interface as your name. Author, I don't think it matters because BattleNet automatically gets your account name, and this one is never used either, but the description extended is used, so you can write some stuff in there. I don't think you need to change anything in options or bounds. You could resize the map from here if you wanted. Textures is fine. Loading screen, you could set it to custom and put in like a title, subtitle, help, body text, like a lot of people do, and choose an image that you've imported and set the scaling and such. I find it's good to not leave wait for key on, because then if somebody's AFK and they left their thing on, and everybody's waiting for them to hit spacebar, and it makes it wait really long. So I generally don't check that off. We hit OK once you're done that, and now we're going to set the players. So back in the map button here, you go map player properties. We have player 1 as a user, and we have neutral and hostile, of course, as every map would. And player 2 now we want to make a user. Player 3 we want to make a user, and player 4 we want to make a user. And then player 5 we want to actually make a computer, and same with player 6. And the reason for this is that player 6's units are going to be coming down the left lane, and player 5 units are going to be coming down the right lane. So we don't want your towers to be able to cross attack if we just use hostile for both sides. So 1 and 2 will sort of be allied with 5, and 3 and 4 will still be allied with this 6 mob, the player 6 the mob spawner. But they're not going to be like allies, they're just going to be neutral, I guess. And that's how we'll sort of do the spawning. And you notice I didn't set any of the colors or anything. You don't want to touch that or anything about them, their color, their race or anything, because you'll do that when you publish to using the map game variants, which there's plenty of information on SC2 Mapster about that. I won't be going over that. If you do get that far to publishing, then you can read about that, and I even have a tutorial about game variants. And that's pretty much it for terrain. So look forward to the next part, because that's going to be the hardest one, which is the data editor.